everybody.
Hi, Craig.
Thanks for everybody who's joining us. We were just saying ahead of time, I don't know if you could hear us, but Justin has something to do. I hadn't heard from Carl or Nicole, but in any event, this is sort of a recap of our spring 2025 business meeting at Reunion Tap and Table. And it went very well. I have a write-up that I'll be sending to you folks, and I did collect business cards, and I know I already have William's write-up. Thank you very much, William. So people were pretty enthusiastic. The turnout was smaller, of course. We had about 25 folks outside of our own group here, and they were what we lacked in numbers, we made up for in quality and enthusiasm, because this group was very, very vocal about giving us suggestions about a number of things. They were very good about intermingling and basically networking. So the question I've had since then is, when are we going to do this again? Craig, William, can you tell me, how much did that cost us? Because you have the credit card.
Yeah, I don't know what the final tab was. I'm thinking it was around 1,500, but maybe Will knows the real number.
It was right around. It may have been 1,400, but it was right in that range.
Okay, so that's good to know, because we want to be very cognizant of the budget, because we are not yet a line item on the budget, and we don't want to blow it. A couple of thoughts that I had, just administrative. Somewhere along the line, I think that, and this is just little nitpicky stuff, but it's important. I think that there was like a communication gap, because when we got in there, the girl who was bartending, she just had pitchers of water out. And I would have thought, hey, sodas, and she did put them out when I asked her about it, and I mentioned it to the folks at Reunion Tap and Table. The other thing was, I guess they didn't really get what our meeting was going to be about. So we ended up pushing tables back to make space. So it was okay, but just in the future, probably if and when we do this again at another venue, we should just be more specific. I would say, all things considered, the post office pub was better at doing this, probably because they do more events and that room they have is good, but it was all good. The important thing on this was that we had a very enthusiastic crowd. They really want our help. One thing that we did, that I did mention to people, and I'd like to put it out for consideration here, in asking the attendees, the small business owners, how we could help them. And would it be helpful if we could do little write-ups highlighting, business of the week or business of the month, just to show that they're here. Because when you go onto the Grafton Facebook pages, all things Grafton, Grafton Informed, one theme that is recurring is that the members on these things, that, and there's like 4,000 members, 5,000 members on certain of the Grafton pages, is they would like, they ask, hey, does anybody know a good electrician or a plumber? Or who do you recommend for landscaping? Things like this. And those posts get a lot of replies and suggestions. So one way that we could help is just put it out there on our web page, and we have to update our web page on there to show events and things like this, is that anybody who would like a profile done, please let us know, and we'll put your name in queue to do it. I am perfectly happy as, a reporter, because it's my stock in trade, to do these little write-ups. And we could put down, I could put together a template to make it easy for people, just to say, okay, name of business, location, how long in business, fill in the blanks, tell us about yourself, what do you like best about Grafton? What are your suggestions for doing, attracting businesses to Grafton? Things like that, so that it would be easy peasy if, say, Sean, you decided you wanted to do one.
Right.
All you have the template, all you have to do is ask the questions, or actually you wouldn't even have to ask unless you wanted to. We could email it to these folks, or you spend little time on the phone with them, and then
Right,
boom, we print it out. It could be on Grafton letterhead.
right.
What does everybody think about that idea?
Laura, do you think we could just take a pause and officially call our meeting to order, since we're just hitting a quorum and two of us are remote? So if we could just call the meeting to order and announce our names and do a roll call vote.
Okay, thank you, Angela. Usually Justin calls me out on that. So, yes, okay, so this is, Wednesday, June 18th, 2025, meeting of the Grafton Economic Development Commission meeting. We're calling this to order. I'm Laura DiDio, the chairperson. I'm present here at GCTV.
Sean McAvoy, President.
Angela
Craig
H.
Hoffman here.
One more time.
Go ahead, Craig.
Sorry, Craig Hoffman here.
And Angela Achu. Thank you, Laura.
Okay, and also present on, representing the town is William Blake, our Assistant Town Administrator.
Mhm.
So, what does, how do people feel about this?
So I think your question, Laura, is about better use of our website, the Economic Development Commission website, and being able to highlight our local businesses. And you're looking for feedback on you creating a template that businesses could use if they would like to have their services, their products, just basically their business advertised on the website. So I'm in favor of you creating a template that our board could take a look at an upcoming meeting. We could review and discuss.
Yes. Okay. Sean?
Yeah,
Go ahead, Craig.
no, I was gonna say, I think that's a great thought from Angela. So I agree. Any way we can communicate with the business community and, either internally or externally, I think is good for local business, so it's a great idea.
My thinking is, yes, it's a great idea, and we should definitely do it, or try it. How would you avoid someone eventually saying, well, this one's getting more press than I'm getting? Would we have to make it part of the rules for us putting their name and face up, their profile up there? Is it a first come, first served basis? Is it a seasonal basis? And I'm not trying to be negative about it, but you wouldn't want someone to feel slighted that, again, as I said, someone's getting more press than someone else.
So we could do it as a link on our website, so no one would have more room than another business. And you could just put it in a simple alphabetical order. And so I've seen this on many professional websites. It's a link, and then you get a list of your businesses, and the template it's Laura's great idea. So the template that she's suggesting to create, you'd go to that link and you'd be able to see I think basic information is what she's identifying about a business. And the example she gave us before this was all things Grafton. So if someone was saying, do you have anyone that you would recommend for lawn care services? People would see the replies, where if you came to the economic development website, you could see a link and we could have it categorized by
Yes,
services.
yes, exactly. I was just gonna say that. Like pet services was a big thing.
Yeah. So it's
Um,
not like how many inches of like a square page ad does someone get? but more of a link that we add and we can build off of.
Yes, and William was good enough to give us the list of businesses in Grafton that we sent out the emails to. We could replicate that list on the website, you know, just, again, a link, here are the businesses. We could have it in alphabetical order, and then do a deeper dive and categorize things, as Angela was saying. So, electricians, plumbers, pet sitting services, babysitting, food, you know, because we do have several businesses like that, you know, where they do chocolates and cakes and what have you. People tend to like those things. So yeah, I mean, so they are free to participate. We can also, once we get this going, I would think it would be a great idea if we could post the links on the various Grafton Facebook pages. That gets a lot of eyes on.
Yeah,
And say, hey, this is open to everybody, every
You're
Grafton
right.
business.
mm-hmm,
You know, if you have any questions, contact us. And here's what
right,
here's what we can do. So if they elect not to participate, that's their
Right.
choice,
Mhm.
but they will still be listed under the businesses in Grafton that we could, you know, link to.
okay, yeah, that,
And it shows that we're doing something, outreach, communication, collaboration,
right,
and it's not going to cost the town anything to do this.
right,
You know, which, you know, with tight budgets, I mean, I think that this is something, you know, visible that we could do.
right, okay,
And if we had the template, it would be easy peasy for them to
Yeah.
fill it out, and then, one or all of us to review it and just go over some of the things with them and put it up
Yeah.
there.
that sounds good. Definitely,
I also think that if you're willing to create the template,
Yes.
we can also replicate it as an online form, so that way if
Yes.
somebody doesn't wanna fill it out by hand, they can just do it like that and have it sent directly to the entire committee.
Oh, yeah,
And it'd
absolutely.
be a great way to rejuvenate the current business directory that's on the EDC page by,
Mhm.
you know, getting new businesses on there and also expanding what's already there.
right,
Yeah, so, I think, that would be great, and that would be something that we can do over the next couple of months in the summer.
yeah,
So, but I think that was one of the big takeaways. There is enthusiasm
yeah,
here and willingness, and people certainly, it might even lead to collaboration amongst the businesses once, you know, they do this, because I did, Alan Villatoro, who is the CEO at Discerned,
right,
he was talking to a couple of people about how, you know, they might be able to work together, et cetera.
right,
So, I mean, I think it's good. So now this is to build upon that in some practical ways where we are more visible to the community at large, the business people as well as Grafton residents. So, anybody, Craig, you have anything you'd like to add?
No, not at this time, thanks. Thank
Okay.
you, Laura.
Okay, so that was number 2. Moving on to the third item in the agenda, discussing upcoming EDC initiatives and guest speakers. I did have a phone conversation with Christina Escobar, who is with the SBA. She's the director there at the SBA, and she's also, and she does the lending programs, and she's also involved at the Worcester Business Development Corp. She emailed me some of the brochures that they have, as well as some of the PowerPoint presentations that they do when they go to present to people. She and I discussed the possibility or potential, if everyone here thinks it's a good idea, of basically addressing us here about what they could do. She's not available in July, but that's, you know, could be a potential, but we do have in the meantime, we do have the PowerPoint presentations that she sent, and there's a potential, you know, to put that up on our website, or link, or just put the link
Yeah.
there, so it goes
Mhm.
back to them, because that's the 504, the SBA 504 loan programs. And she did mention that there are already several minority and women-owned small businesses in Grafton
Yeah.
that have taken advantage of these
Yeah.
loan programs, one of them being Theroux Dental Associates.
Okay,
So there's a couple, and she said there was another one in progress. So it would be, and by the way, this SBDC is a free, she gave us links to free resources on business development and things like this. So if there's somebody, for example, at the meeting that we had, our business meeting, there was a very nice girl, Natalie Batista, who came, and she has her own Canine Solutions, the
Dog walk.
professional, yes,
Yep.
pet services, training, pet sitting thing. Somebody like Natalie might be able to really make use of these resources, possibly get a loan when she's doing that, but there's all sorts of resources that they have that we could link to their sites, you know, to help people out.
yeah,
And just say, we can put that as we populate our site more. Hey, here are some resources for people who are just starting out, loan resources, how to develop your business, things like this. So, that was there, but I certainly think it would, you know, if you're all on board, it might be interesting to have Christina present to us at some point.
I'm familiar with some of this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that we would per se need to have her come in and present to us the way that the other gentleman we had last meeting was here.
Mm-hmm.
I think something on that idea, we might use that as a agenda item
Mm-hmm.
for our next meet and greet session with small businesses. Because to give them something more than, you know, a free pizza, oh, not pizza, literally, but, you know, free dinner or whatever.
Hey, don't knock those free pizzas.
I know, they
People
were,
like
I should,
them.
yeah, you know, free food, let's put it that way. So, something like this, all right, come on, have dinner with us and listen to this person tell you about, you know, it's a free course. A free course on how to work your business. Granted, it would be a Cliff Notes version, but still, if there were people out there that have never heard of SBA or this SBDC, you know, again, I don't want to keep repeating myself, but I just think that would be a great agenda item to get more people in the door, and that's one help that people would have. We can, one help.
Yeah.
You know, so,
I agree, however we want to do it.
right, so,
Angela, what do you think?
I think that's a great idea. I think it would be nice. Definitely heard interest from the attendees that they would love to see these types of get-togethers quarterly. I think we could probably work toward having a fall event so that 2025 had both a spring and a fall event, and invite a guest speaker, add a little bit more structure to our next meeting, our next in-person gathering.
Exactly, well, we'll get better at this now that we're,
Right.
you know, having regular meetings again. Craig, your thoughts? I know you've been very good at getting people to address us. Did you have any thoughts on this, and also any thoughts on who we might have in here as a guest speaker?
I don't have any specific thoughts about a guest speaker. I
Okay.
mean, I guess there's a lot of options, I guess, and we should probably compile a list. Maybe Will can help us with that, just because he has an internal perspective. But anybody in the local community, I think, would be great if they have something to bring to the table. But I think I think just communication in general. I think we need to build that. I think that's something that the committee should focus on. We don't have a lot of communication with the business community. We just had the event at our reunion, but we just had a presentation at our meeting last night from the emergency management committee. They compiled an incredible plan, and we can't share that with the business community, but just to make them aware that there is a plan, for their employees. And if they had any questions, we do have a committee that they could reach out to, in case there is, God forbid, an emergency in town. Our public safety folks will step forward and they will implement the plan from a variety of, it's amazing, the amount of things you don't think about that they have compiled. But anyway, stuff like that. And we are doing one of the things that the select board does is called Ask Me Anything. So we all take turns doing that, and me and Mark Alamo are up to do one, and we've been kind of procrastinating to put it on. But we're gonna be scheduling that, and that might be a thing where we reach out to the business community and invite them to come in, and not that we're gonna have all the answers for them, but for them to be able to come in and ask questions that we can either answer or take back to the administrative team and ask them for a full response. So it's things like that. I think we need to keep that dialogue going with them, and so that we build that relationship and that trust. We can do it through either scheduled meetings, events, that the town puts on.
Just an aside here, the Grafton Emergency Management Committee, of which I am a member, and Kathy Cedarberg is the head of it, does amazing work. Not only do we have plans, I'm working on a plan right now on emergency evacuations of horses if something happens. But we have so many resources there, and this is one of those things where you can really, it's very, very practical and hands-on. So, and she gets a lot of grants and things like this, so it's a real model for the rest of us, even though we don't, different committees function in different ways and have different needs, but it's a great job there, and there are a lot of resources as well for the town, but yeah.
I thought that if we were talking about having regularly scheduled meetings with businesses and go back to having this guest speaker, let's call it a seminar, mini seminar type forum. Instead of trying to have it in a place such as a restaurant or whatever, would we have rooms available in this building, or in the town hall, where we could advertise this seminar and have enough seats to have everybody in the room?
Yes.
I know in the room they have the selectmen, there's a lot of space, not unfortunately, but you have to have the space for the board to sit and the desk and stuff. And so you have room for, say, 20 whatever people. If we had a room similar to that room, but with more seating room as opposed to more desks, I think that would be an idea. And yes, maybe in the beginning we don't have that many bodies in the room, but if it becomes a regular scheduled event and we have quality, information that we're giving out, I think it would grow on itself.
So both conference room A, which is the select board meeting room, and conference room F, which is where the school committee meets, has capacity for 48, I wanna say.
Okay,
Mhm.
But they're also fully remote capable, so if somebody was on Zoom and wanted to participate, they'd be
Okay.
able to.
okay,
Alternatively, if you were looking for more seating capacity, there's the public meeting room at the library, which is
Yeah.
open.
right, okay, so, yeah, that's a thought, I forgot about the library.
Mm.
Okay,
I
so,
like this library.
and, you don't necessarily have to have food, as long as you have refreshments of some sort, then, yeah, all right,
Well, that's a good idea.
my 2 cents.
We definitely have businesses in town who offer catering services, so we could, I like Sean's idea and would be in favor of considering that for our fall conference.
Yeah,
Okay,
actually, all you have to do is get
All of them.
Chuck Brown of Bread Guy Breads.
yeah, well, I'm thinking as Carl has mentioned a couple of times, it's the same big businesses in town that that get tapped all the time. I'm thinking if we were to do, coffee and tea and,
Yeah.
like a little pastry, as it's a low budget, the room is free, coffee is reasonable, so a low budget thing, our biggest cost would be time and advertising and getting, I think, that way.
Yeah, most of the advertising can be, digital, online,
Mhm.
and just making a post, I mean, that's
Yeah.
the way a lot of things
That,
go.
that was one thing that I don't know if anybody had the opportunity to ask. How many of the folks that actually showed up because we handed them a flyer and asked them to show up, or did they read about it on, as you said, some digital format?
It was all things Grafton. The majority
Yes.
of people that I spoke to had
Okay.
heard of it that day with a posting of all
Okay.
things Grafton.
Okay,
Yeah, I
All right.
spoke to a couple of people who had actually responded to the mailings. Now, it was funny, we only got about 15 or 20 responses from the mailings, and some of the people who said that they were gonna come from the mailings and filled out the forms, they weren't the ones who showed up.
yeah,
So,
okay,
make of that what you will, it's just a
Yeah.
little ironic, so,
Right.
that is, Angela makes a good point, though, I mean, people saw it that day on All Things Grafton and said, hey, we'll be there.
yeah.
So,
Well, the only, I say negative that I thought of was the timing of it. 'Cause we were comparing it to the first event that we had in January, and really you can't, because it's not apples and apples. Someone looking for something to do or with nothing to do on a cold Thursday night in January, as opposed to a nice warm spring night, in March or February, there's a big difference there. We start thinking of spring, you're not thinking about going someplace, staying inside.
no.
We did have heavy rain on the night of the event, so
Mhm.
there were some people
Yeah.
that
Couldn't make it, yeah.
talked about some of the challenges,
Mhm.
who did make it, and that could have been an issue for some who didn't.
Yeah,
Or somebody said, hey, I'm gonna go, and then they take a look out the
Yeah.
window and said,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe not, so, you just don't know, I mean, I
Yeah.
was surprised that we got about 100 people back in January of 2024. But maybe people were just going stir crazy. Yeah, I don't,
right.
it's just one of those things. Does anybody have anything else that they'd like to add for any potential ideas for upcoming EDC initiatives?
Without going too deep into it, National Night Out is right around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
I know I know what it's for and what it's about. Would it be wrong to say or ask if we could allow some businesses to set up a table and hand out flyers or whatever?
Well, I know that the Grafton Emergency Management Committee does it, and they hand out like some,
Yes, but that
Well,
Grafton,
thanks, yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm talking over you a little. Grafton Emergency Management falls right in line with part of the reason for having National Night Out.
yes, no, I know that.
But if we were to say, hey, listen, you're gonna have tons of townspeople maybe you could set something up off to the side and, you know, I'm assuming Dunkin' Donuts gives out free coffee or whatever, but that's a whole another type of business, cause it's a franchise and whatever, but I don't know, and is it right or wrong to say, let's invite businesses to set up a table similar to not necessarily a flea market, but, yard sale, and like, I don't wanna
think
cheapen.
I think it would be good for the EDC to set up a table.
Yeah,
Like
Okay.
emergency management, I don't know if we could invite businesses, cause that might be a huge undertaking and a lot of tables if, you know, everybody took us up
Well,
on
no,
it,
they-
but certainly EDC,
If
you know, it's
this,
a resource for people there. Go ahead.
alright, I was thinking if they're showing up, they're bringing their own table, we're not doing it.
well then, okay, so that's a two-edged sword. What I would say, in theory, it sounds great, but you don't know who's gonna show up,
Mm-hmm,
and you ask people to respond RSVP, so you get an idea, but then you could have a run on people who say, hey, I wanna show up, and there's no room for them, so that's my, but yeah, I like the idea of, if we're gonna have an EDC table, then who's gonna man it, what are we gonna have on it, et cetera, cause it is,
we have an EDC table, you ask people, you say to them, just like the bulletin board in the coffee shop, you wanna put your business card on the bulletin board, we're gonna have an EDC table, you want your business card want us handing out your business card, or on our bulletin board, whatever you wanna say it, send us some business cards and we'll put them on the table. What else can you do? That's one way of offering people to advertise their business or talk about their business a little bit.
yeah, I mean, I like the idea,
What's another word for bulletin board on the wall?
shameless
Well,
self-promotion.
it sounds like you're talking almost like a trade show, like, not at first night out, but I mean, it's that just made me think of maybe we should do, instead of the business networking night like we did at Reunion, do like a trade show and let businesses set up a table. And
Yeah.
make it about them so they can kind of promote
Okay,
what they're doing as a local business.
okay.
Now, we would have to reach out to Grafton PD
Mm-hmm.
For National Night Out?
Yeah.
Yeah,
and say, hey, is there space, is this feasible?
yeah, I'd be happy to touch base with the chief to
Okay, yeah,
inquire about that.
yeah, that's, okay, action item, okay. William, what would we do without you?
One more
Have
thing,
Fred do it.
if I could have the floor just for a second.
Time's up.
Maybe,
Sorry.
maybe after Labor Day, one of the things that I'm trying to push the board to do, my board, is to, bring in committees that we appoint, and, have at least one committee come in at each meeting, and kind of report what they're doing and get input from the select board and kind of just do kind of informational / brainstorming session with the board. Could be, 15 minutes, doesn't have to be long, and we're gonna kind of try and rotate through all the committees between now and the end of the year, because we know after the end of the year it becomes budget season, and then it's off to the races. So we do have a window of time where we have, I think, agenda space
Yes,
where we get committees come in, and this is an important one for the town. We're trying to get it started again. So I was wondering if the committee would be willing to come in, if we can get the EDC on the agenda to come in and talk to the board.
yeah,
Why not?
yeah,
Okay.
absolutely, I think it's a great idea. So
Yeah.
they would present to us, or we would go in and present to them?
No, you go to the select board and you tell them what you're doing.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. I mean, I know that was, in the past, that was something that they had brought up in prior years, but it never happened. So, yeah, I'm happy to do that and share the stage with, Sean, Justin, Angela, whoever, and
Okay.
see,
Sounds
I think it's a good idea, because, yeah. That
Right,
would.
great.
Hmm?
So I could, yeah, so I can, I'll talk to the board, we'll pick a night and, make sure that we have, you know, a meeting to kind of prepare. Not that we don't have to put on a big dog and pony show, but just get focused on, you know, a few things that we, you know, just let them know what we're doing. And then get their thoughts on, maybe some things that we could do in the coming year.
Yeah, I mean, it makes
Okay.
sense. I mean, I think one of the things that is imperative for not just the EDC, but all of these committees, is to have better communications and collaboration in order to foster that spirit of cooperation and then move things forward, because we haven't, quite frankly, had that in the past couple of years. I mean,
Yeah.
for whatever reason, and certainly, you know, post-COVID, that was an issue. Then we were just recalibrating, and there were some big changes with people leaving the EDC
Yeah.
last year, and that wasn't communicated to us, some of those
Yeah.
changes. It was in a haphazard manner. So this would certainly go a long way towards rectifying that and moving ahead and getting the, you know,
Right.
getting the initiative back.
Yeah, you know, it's like, you know, this group, not this specific group, but this committee has never really gotten a lot of traction, and I tell my members of my association, we are where we are because of who we are. So I know we can do, we can get this machine moving, which brings me to your earlier question, Laura, about how we can, you know, maybe a guest speaker or who we can have come in. And I know Carl, he's not here tonight, but he had mentioned bringing in, the EDC chair or commissioner, from either, Westboro or
Yes,
Marlboro.
yeah.
We still haven't done that yet because they have really robust, thriving EDC, committees and, you know, in their communities, and, you know, that's what we're all striving for. So, you know, if they're willing to come in, and I think they are, we could certainly use their knowledge and experience to help us.
Yeah, so is Carl going to, he had that contact, so I guess what we could do is, I'll send out an email and copy everybody and just ask Carl, if he would be willing to reach out to those folks again and.
So I'm in favor of Craig going forward and giving us like a date that you propose that we come to the select board. And I think one person from our group presenting to the select board would be very helpful. And then as many of our members that can be in the audience to attend would be very helpful. It would be an efficient use of the time.
Yes, I agree, Angela.
Just as a related topic, I think that within our own rank and file, we should start considering attendance for our Economic Development Commission. So we've got, you know, we're appointed without a cutoff date, and I think my takeaway from our spring event is that we do have other businesses in town who would have an interest in being a representative on the EDC. And I think that it helps to have our own self-assessment and see who really has the time to give to the EDC. Because it's tough to have a committee if we're not all, you know, regularly attending meetings. So I know that we've had a couple of suggestions in the past with presenters. I know there has been outreach and we've scheduled it and we put it on the agenda, and it just didn't work out except for what Craig was able to make happen, and that was great. So I would just say as we're looking ahead, we should really start thinking about having an honest discussion as an EDC about time commitments and availability to give on the EDC.
I agree. But we'll need the full complement of members to discuss that, but, you know, I think it's,
Yeah, and if we don't have the full complement of members, I'm happy to make it an agenda item and let everybody on the EDC know about it, and if they choose to show up, that's great. If they choose not to, as long as we have a quorum, have a discussion, and I think we all have experience serving on other committees, and just as Craig has pointed out, our committee is only as strong as those of us who are representing and engaging and working together.
yeah, I know, it has been challenging the past couple of times, like I had to cancel the May meeting because nobody could show up except myself and one other person, so, and I had to do that at the last minute. It's sort of like herding cats,
Yes.
you know, and I know everybody's busy.
So I hear you, Laura, and I think that the goal was to get as many of our EDC members at that spring event, and
Yes.
so May is a tough month, but I don't want to engage this in some full blown discussion. I just
No,
am hearing the discussion this evening, and I'm happy to present this as a request for a future agenda item so that there's plenty of notice that's given. It's just a tough situation when there's not a cutoff to the appointments on the EDC.
yes,
We really have to self-police and just, in a very professional, collegial manner, have an honest discussion, because there is interest within the business community in our town to learn more about the EDC, and also an interest to participate on it. And so we do have a slot in our, I'll call it in our enabling orders, that tells us what our role is, how many are like an at-large member who's a member of the business community. So I don't want to take up more time on this, because I know we're approaching the 8 o'clock hour, and I think that we've been judicious with trying to keep our meetings to an
Yes.
hour. So Laura, I'm going to turn the floor back to you so we can move through the rest of the agenda.
okay, so the rest of the agenda is just, number 4 item, other EDC business. And the only EDC other business that I can think of, you all might have some thoughts, is that we need to set the dates for upcoming meetings. My thought, and I just want to put this out here for discussion, normally the third Wednesday in July would be July 16th. So we might, how do people feel about skipping July or August or July, you know, one of those months, because summertime is tough. I mean, I'm certainly
Right.
going to be here, but I mean, I know things come up and we can't always predict them, but I do know that summer is tough. So do we want to have meetings in both July and August?
I think the only item we would need to discuss in July is if we're going to have a presence at National Night Out. If we can or cannot. If we can and we wanna put something together, then we'd wanna have to, you know, talk about it. But again, is it something that we need to have a meeting about? We're not voting on anything, we're not spending money, we're just finding out who might be available for National Night Out, and, you know, do some table sitting. Really, that's all we need to find out if we can be there. I'm having been there before with other committees, yes, I'm sure we can. And then who can do table sitting? And that's really what we would need to discuss in July. So then August, we start talking about, okay, our fall business networking meeting. So I would say July, we could maybe do without, and then, but definitely plan a meeting for August. So that
Yeah,
we
to
can
get
start.
ready for September.
Right.
I think that's a good idea. Craig, Angela, what do you both think?
Angela, you wanna go?
Sure, that's fine with me. It's just that the August meeting, we would probably be really needing to push through that so that we could prepare for a fall event. So that would either be, it would probably be October, given that September can be very busy for
Yes.
folks with
Yeah.
back to school and other items going on with work.
Okay, so then an August meeting would be Wednesday, August 20th.
Yeah.
I'm available.
Okay.
That's fine with me too. I would just ask Will,
Yes, sir.
Will, could you run down if we could have just a tabletop for the July event, for the Grafton Night Out?
Yep. Yep, I already made note to contact the chief about that.
What is the exact
Right.
date for Grafton Night Out?
Thank you.
Second Tuesday of August this year?
Last year was August 8th. I believe it's always in the first half of August. So-
Okay, so then this year it might be August 12th or August 5th. Yeah.
It's usually on the night of a select board meeting. Traditionally, it has, and
Okay.
we'll go down there early, but then we have to go back up to meet. I don't know if that's the case this year or not. I'm sure Will knows.
Okay,
Uh,
It's
Tuesday,
good, 'cause we avoid the dunking booth, so.
yeah,
Tuesday, August 5th, I believe is the day for this year.
okay, great. Okay, so that's good. So do we want to take a vote on skipping the July EDC meeting?
I would say.
Yeah, I don't think we need a vote on that. We'll
Okay.
just,
No, you
we'll
just
just
don't
schedule,
don't
Okay.
vote
just
on the
schedule
agenda.
our next meeting for, whatever it's August 16th or 20th, whatever you said.
Mhm.
August 20th.
Yes,
Okay.
that would be August 20th. And then
Okay.
we'd be looking at, after that, September 17th.
Mhm.
And then, after that, it would be October 15th. But we'd be looking to do, I like the idea of doing an event in October,
Okay.
as well. But of course, it's still early days, so.
When is-
Sounds good, Laura. I think we're sticking to the third Wednesday of the month. I think
Yes.
that's helpful for people as they're looking at their calendar, so I think that sounds good, and I agree a vote isn't needed for the scheduling, but I appreciate you asking for a consensus.
Yeah, so, Angela, are you gonna write up the minutes of the meeting?
I will, and I'll get that out to our group, yes.
Okay.
And so it'll come out as a draft, and then we can make a motion at the next meeting to be able to vote to approve them. But I think as long as we have a draft, so people know what was discussed.
Yeah, so that'll be great, so we can just keep up with, things. So meanwhile, I'll just send out an email, and you can also put it in the minutes, Angela, separately, just in case somebody misses one or the other, that, we've decided not to hold a July meeting.
Mhm.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yep.
so everybody knows.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good.
All right, so does anybody have anything else? Or if you do, speak up now. Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion
So
to
moved.
adjourn. So moved. Second.
Okay,
And then Laura, if you would, just because Craig and I are remote, if you would please do the roll
Mhm.
call, and we'll just go in order. So if you wanna start with yourself, we just have to do a roll call to close the meeting because two of us are remote.
okay, so Laura DiDio, EDC chairperson, voting to adjourn.
Thank you.
Sean, second.
Angela Each, in favor to adjourn.
Greg Goffin, aye.
Okay, terrific.
Meeting's adjourned, 7:58 PM. Wishing everyone a great weekend ahead and a happy July.
Yes,
Thank you.
take care.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
All right.